back, ladies and gentlemen, to the She Knows Pro Football podcast. Once again, I'm Alice, aka the NFL Girl, and once again, I got my good friend Dominick here from Fantasy Hot Read. Dominick, how you doing tonight?
I'm not doing too bad, just getting through this quarantine like everybody else is. Everybody needs to stay inside and quit complaining. It's only a month or two, and it's going to save a lot of lives, so get over it.
I seriously need people to stop complaining, stop having your rallies and your protests against it. Please, everybody, just get over it. Quarantine down. I've been in for 34 days. I don't know how many more days I'm going to be here. I'm going to be okay. You're going to be okay. We're going to come out the other side of this just fine. So everybody chill out.
Yeah, I've been in basic quarantine for 7.5 years now since going blind, so everybody else can deal with a couple months.
Exactly. Well, you guys, you know what next Thursday is. It's time for the NFL draft. Despite everything else being shut down in the world, the NFL is decided to march on. It's going to be a little bit weird. It's going to be a little bit different. You got to understand, everyone's in quarantine. We're going to have Roger Goodell announcing the picks via his basement. We're going to have everyone on Microsoft, and doing their picks from their war rooms, but they will not be there together. So it's going to be different, but it is going to happen. And that being said, we absolutely should cover this draft this year, even as crazy as it's going to be. So I want to get started. I definitely want to cover at least the top 10 players and where we think, who we think is going to go where, and what teams may or may not do as far as like moving around in the draft or whatever. So Dominick, I'm going to lean heavily on you. This is a little bit more your forte. Let's start right at the top, okay? We got the Bengals coming up first. And you, obviously, the number one pick overall at this point is being predicted to be Joe Burrow, because that is a very pressing need for the Bengals. Dominick, what's your feeling on Joe Burrow, and is that the runaway first round, the first overall pick?
Yeah, he's gonna be a 100% the first pick in the draft. The only thing here is if Cincinnati decides to move out, which I don't think they're going to. From what I've heard in the past, Mike Brown says we're going to stay with our player, we're going to take him, and that's it. In the draft, obviously, I'm sure you remember where the Saints gave basically their entire draft plus their first and third round pick the following year to get Ricky Williams. They actually offered that same offer to the Bengals for their pick, and they turned it down. That's why they went to the pick after that and moved up to get it with that to the Dolphins. I forget who they traded with, but that's why they gave him that pick, because the Bengals refused it. So it's going to take a lot for the Dolphins to move up here. It's probably going to take all of their first-round picks this year and probably a first-round pick next year. I would not do that if I was the Dolphins. I would just stay where they are. And with that being said, I think that the Bengals are going to stay where they are. Burrow has come around and saying that he didn't want to go there. He's saying now that he will play there. He's only from Athens, Ohio, which is only about an hour and a half or 2 hours from Cincinnati. So he'll be like a hometown hero if he can make that there. He may or he may not work out. We never know that. But if he does work out, he'll be a sensation. And whether he does work out or not, this is the correct pick for the Cincinnati Bengals to make.
I 1000% agree with you, just based on what I saw from Joe Burrow in this last year. LSU had a hell of a run, and Joe Burrow being the number one overall pick seems like a no-brainer here, especially for the Bengals. They've struggled in the last few years, relying on Andy Dalton. And admittedly, there's been injuries there. AJ Green didn't play at all this past season. Maybe it's time just for fresh faces there to just move on and accept that Andy Dalton isn't the future of that franchise, and accept that it's Joe Burrow is that future. At least that we hope. We hope that Joe Burrow is the answer that they need, and that he will work out there, like you said, hometown hero and everything. So I wish the kid luck, and I hope it works out. And for sure, I 100% agree that he's the runaway, definitive number one overall pick. Next up, of course, we got to talk about the Washington Redskins. This is another one where I feel like it's a no-brainer, and that's Chase Young out of Ohio State. My goodness, this kid is impressive. Dominick, tell me why the Washington Redskins should absolutely not trade out of that number 2 spot and go ahead and grab Chase Young right here.
Well, if they're going to trade out, they're going to again, just like with the Bengals, they're going to need a lot to trade out of there. Chase Young is the best player in this draft. I know Joe Burrow is going to go number 1, but Chase Young is by far the best player in the draft. This Redskins don't have a lot going for them. Dwayne Haskins at quarterback is nothing at all, unfortunately. Their offensive line is terrible, especially if Trent Williams finally does get traded. Their top running back has missed the last 2.5 years with knee injuries, so we're going to have to see what happens there. But one thing they do have is their defensive line. They've spent a lot of capital on there. They have Kerrigan there. They have a lot of good players on the offensive line. They traded up last year and got Sweat. So if they add Chase Young here, they could have, on one of the worst teams in the league, they could have one of, or if not the best defensive line in the league just by taking him. He's not as polished as the Bosa brothers, but he's a lot more athletic than they are. So he just does things in a little bit of a different way. He's, 6'5", whatever, 275 pounds coming off the edge there. He could dominate here against a lot of these teams in the NFC. Unfortunately, he's going to be going against possibly the two best offensive lines in the NFL in the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. So that could limit what he's going to do sack-wise, but he's going to get a lot of pressure on quarterbacks in this division. And just in the NFC in general, he could wreak havoc in the NFC, just like the way Bosa did last year's rookie with his 9 sacks as a rookie, and like his brother's doing in Los Angeles with the Chargers right now on the other side, and Joey Bosa.
Chase Young is for sure one of those once in a lifetime type of players that you absolutely, if you have the opportunity to get him, you should 1000% get him. I cannot see any reason whatsoever for the Redskins to trade out of this spot and to go after any other player. People would have to offer some hell of a good amount of draft picks in order for that to happen. And again, do you see that having enough capital to make that even viable for someone else? I don't see that. I really feel like that this is the best decision for the Redskins. Keep in mind, Ron Rivera is a defensive-minded coach. He played defense. So for him to get Chase Young in his hands, young and raw and ready to go, I absolutely think this is the best decision. And I can't wait to see what Chase Young can do in that NFC East division. I'm ready to see him be able to get some sacks on, hopefully, Carson Wentz and on Dak Prescott. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Next up, we got to talk about the Detroit Lions. Good Lord, that team. They never seem to be able to get it going. I don't know what's going to happen as far as Matt Patricia. It could be that this ends up being his last season if they don't make a considerable change in the way and the level and the number of games they win. So you feel like that they're going to go secondary and Jeffrey Okudah there. Explain to me why you think Jeffrey Okudah is a good fit for them.
Well, they traded Darius Slay, so they obviously need a cornerback there. I do agree with Chris Wessling from around the NFL, saying that if they traded Darius Slay just to draft his replacement with number 3, and he's going to be worse, possibly just because he is a rookie, so he doesn't have that experience. I would be upset if I was a Detroit fan. I agree with him, but I do still think that that's what's going to happen here. If they stay there, I can see this being a very good trade partner for somebody, maybe the Dolphins that want to come up and get somebody, or possibly the Chargers, who the Chargers don't really have the ammunition to come up, I don't feel, unless it doesn't cost a whole lot. But the Dolphins do have quite a bit of ammunition to move up here if they want to come up there and make sure they get their quarterback. But I didn't put any trades in this mock draft that I did for you. So if the Detroit Lions do stay there, I can really see them going in there and taking Jeffrey Okudah out of Ohio State. The only thing that I think would change this is if some reason Miami did go up to 2, was able to get up to 2 to Washington to get their guy, then Chase Young would slip to the Detroit here. If that were to happen, then they would easily take Chase Young over Jeffrey Okudah. But other than that, this is going to be an Okudah pick for sure.
That would be good for them, especially after they made the decision to go ahead and let Darius Slay walk. So if giving Jeffrey Okudah is the best bet for them, then I'm all for it. And I'd like to see them do something with that defense next season, become competitive in that NFC North division, because right now they're just not at all. Next up, the New York Giants. Oh, God, that's another team. The NFC East was just a disaster last season. And Washington Redskins and New York Giants were competing for last place. And so the Giants, you feel like that they're going to need some defensive help, and they're going to do that on that line and get Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker out of Clemson. Do you think that Gettleman will be able to develop this kid, and is this the best possible choice for this team right now?
I don't think it's the best choice. I think they really need an offensive lineman here. They should go with Tristan Wirfs or Jedrick Wills from Alabama. But I think that with the New York Giants, when they blow smoke at somebody, they tend to actually go through with it. Last year, there was a lot of rumors that, they were going to just stay pat and take Daniel Jones. They ended up doing that. A lot of people didn't think they would, and they said they were going to, and they did. There's a lot of rumors going out now that they're going to take Isaiah Simmons. So I do think that's going to happen. He's considered a linebacker, but he plays all over the field. He plays linebacker, he plays safety, he can play some slot cornerback. He's actually done that. He's come off the edge as well. In the championship game last year against LSU, he actually played a lot of safety and held down a lot of good players there for a while. He's 245 pounds. He still runs a 4.3 40. He's just an amazing athlete. He can play all over the field. He's going to be one of those positionless defenders here, and that can be very, very good. The only thing, everybody says that Gettleman likes his hog molly, so he likes that offensive line, defensive line. There's not really a defensive lineman here to take. They do need an offensive lineman, but I don't think they're going to take him here. I do think they're going to go with Isaiah Simmons, and they should go with Isaiah Simmons. He's probably the second best player in this draft behind Chase Young.
And I guess that might be a smart decision for them, even though, like you said, they would do better to draft an offensive lineman. But with Gettleman, you just never know. So I'm going to go with you. And Isaiah Simmons makes sense there. If, Gettleman's talking like that's who he's going after, then more than likely he's speaking the truth. Next up, of course, is the Miami Dolphins. Now, they have got a frick ton of first-round picks. Kudos to them for, having a fire sale last season with the idea that they were going to rebuild in this draft this particular season, which was a gamble, but I think it might work out in their favor. And that starts right here with this pick, because you saying they're going to take the second quarterback that's going to come off the board, which is Justin Herbert out of Oregon. Tell me why you think that Justin Herbert would be a good fit there down in Miami as opposed to the quarterbacks that they already have there.
Well, yeah, we know that Josh Rosen isn't long for the league, let alone Miami. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I love him, love Fitzmagic, but he's getting older, so he's only going to be there for maybe a year or two more. With as bad as this offensive line is, it was the worst offensive line in the league last year, and it was historically bad. They can't really go with somebody who, if you want to call him brittle or not, the problem with Tua Tagovailoa is that he is very injury prone. He had a bad ankle. He broke his wrist in spring practice. He obviously had the hip fracture last year, which actually was more than a fracture. It was so bad that he almost lost the leg. The blood flow was stopped there, and if that kind of fracture happens, you can in times lose the leg. Luckily, that wasn't as serious as that, so he didn't lose the leg, obviously. But with that being said, with as bad as the offensive line is here, they need somebody who is athletic. I know Tua is a little bit athletic, but Justin Herbert is healthy. He was an academic All-American last year. He won, I forget what the name of the award is, but he won basically the academic All-American Heisman for how smart he is. He's, like I say, he's the prototypical guy there. He's 6'6", 240 pounds. He can run the ball. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's very athletic. So with the offensive line being a little iffy there, I think he fits better here. And plus, if they do need somebody to come in this year, he can sit behind Fitzpatrick for the first half of the year and come in at the end of the year if he needs to. Otherwise, he can sit for a year and come in next year. I do think that even though they were tanking for Tua supposedly this year, that they're going to end up with their number 2 quarterback in Justin Herbert. They really do like, Burrows, but they're not going to be able to get him, so they're going to be happy with getting Herbert here.
And that might be the best decision for them. It's sad to see that Josh Rosen just didn't work out or isn't working out in the NFL. I thought that there was good potential in him coming out of UCLA. I don't think he got a fair shake there in Arizona. And when they got rid of Wilkes, he was just, expendable. And then him ending up in Miami. And again, once again, same thing where he's expendable. I've never really seen him get a shot. I don't know that he actually will. He may, last as a backup for a couple more seasons. We'll see. But yeah, definitely Justin Herbert is a good decision for them there in Miami, and hopefully that'll work out in their favor. Because like you said, Ryan Fitzpatrick can't last there forever, and that Fitz magic always wears off somewhere around mid-season where he's throwing more picks than touchdowns. So maybe Herbert is the right answer for them.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard a podcast yesterday and it made a lot of sense that Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston are basically the same quarterback. It's just that Ryan Fitzpatrick is beloved by his teammates and Jameis Winston wasn't.
Exactly. Exactly. Next, we got to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, here's the funny thing. You had just said that the Dolphins were interested in Tua, and yet you're saying now that instead they're going to get Herbert and Tua's going to drop to the Chargers. Explain to me why you think Tua is a better fit in LA than he would have been in Miami.
Well, there's it's kind of twofold. I think that the Chargers' offensive line is much better to begin with, and they should be even getting better this year as long as they get some of their people back. They did trade Russell Okung to the Baltimore Ravens. They got Trey Turner back in return. Trey Turner is a better guard, obviously, than they had there last year. He was a Pro Bowler only a couple years ago. He didn't play great last year, but he has been a Pro Bowler in the past. They did sign Brian Bulaga who has been basically protecting Aaron Rodgers for the past 10 years in Green Bay, give or take, and they brought him over, so he's going to do the same thing for whoever they have their quarterback. It'll probably be Tyrod Taylor. They do have, like I said, they do have Tyrod Taylor there. He's a good bridge quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa does need to sit for a year, and I'm just going to call him Tua from now on. And also Tua is from Hawaii, so they are going to have that connection where he's very close to being in Hawaii, so they'll be able to build up the fan base getting into that new stadium. I know that you're not supposed to base your football choices on marketing, but everybody does that to some extent. So they are going to be able to market him quite a bit there. This is one that I've seen Tua slipping a lot because people aren't so sure about his injury. So I'm not very positive about this. He could be somebody who does slip out of the top 10. So if that's the case, I can see him doing it, then ended up in Las Vegas with the Raiders. But if he does go in the top 10 and he doesn't get traded up for possibly at number 3 by somebody with Detroit, then I do see him going to Los Angeles here at number 6.
And that would be a pretty good pick for them because obviously they are in need of a quarterback there. They let Phillip Rivers walk, and who they have there is, no offense, but just that's not the future. And having Tua there would be good. I know he's been injury prone. If he can stay healthy, and like you said, he has a stronger offensive line there in Los Angeles. If he stays healthy, the kid's got a really good future in the NFL. So I'm wishing him luck, and I'm hoping he stays healthy and would like to see him have a good long future in the NFL. Next up is the Carolina Panthers. Panthers made an awesome move, or a crazy move, depending on who you ask, signing Christian McCaffrey to a 4-year, $64 million deal. And that being said, you said that they're going to get a tackle here to protect him in Tristan Wirfs. Now, are you sticking by that? You still think they're going to get Tristan Wirfs here? And is that the best player for them to have right there at that offensive line, is this tackle Tristan Wirfs?
It is. I mean, Jedrick Wills is probably the better tackle, but Tristan Wirfs had a monster combine. I would probably take Derek Brown here, the defensive tackle from Auburn, but I think they may go offensive line, especially now that they did sign Christian McCaffrey, which I'm glad you brought that up. I actually am on the side that it's not a good deal that they made, although hopefully it's only basically a 2-year deal. I know that he has the 2 years left on his rookie contract, which they're going to do, and then this 4 years is going to tack on to the end of that. So this is actually a 6-year deal, which I do think is stupid. They could have tagged him for the 2 years after this and then let him go, which is what they probably should have done. But if they want to, he is the face of their franchise now that Olsen's gone, Luke Kuechly retired, and Cam Newton decided he wanted to leave, wink, wink. So with those 3 out there, he is basically the face of this franchise, and they're going to make him the face of the franchise for the next 6 years. So with that being said, I think it is okay that they re-signed him. I just think it's always bad to re-sign a running back for long term. So we'll see how long it lasts. He may only end up being there for 4 more years. So we'll see. But as for Tristan Wirfs, like I said, he's coming out of Iowa. Offensive linemen from Iowa always seem to perform in the NFL. They just seem to know what they're doing up there in Iowa with these guys. Like, you can say that he had a freakish combine. He had a 40-inch vertical as an offensive lineman. He was one of the fastest 40-yard dashes. He had a monster, long jump and everything. So he just had a monster combine. With that being said, I think they're going to be just very much impressed with him. He's going to be able to learn behind Russell Okung there for at least a year before he maybe retires or moves on, and then he'll be able to take over. So I do think that he is the best. They do need an offensive lineman here. He's the most athletic one on the board, so I think that they're going to be able to take him here and leave probably the best in the draft for Arizona, which they may not even take, even though they should, with the next pick to protect Kyler Murray.
Oh, for sure. I'm actually on the side of players getting paid. So I 1000% think it was a smart idea in the respect of Christian McCaffrey getting that money and doing it now. It's better to do it when you're young because, as they get older, running back is the most disposable position. Every year there's some kid, 21, 22 coming out that, is faster or stronger or more powerful. He can run up the middle. He has great hands. He can, be put in the slot position. And so I personally think that it was a good, smart part on his agent and on McCaffrey's part. Is it a smart decision for Carolina? Again, running backs don't last. So, keep in mind, these aren't guaranteed contracts. NFL contracts aren't guaranteed. Will he be around in 6 more years? I doubt very seriously that was the intent. But hey, let him make his money now, and hopefully bringing in this tackle, get him some protection up there. If Tristan Wirfs is, worth his money, then definitely, having a good tackle there that can help protect him and maybe keep him healthier and keep him upright for a couple extra years. Let's say he lasts another 3-4 years, then that's fine. They got their money's worth. And so I think it's a smart decision on the part of Christian McCaffrey. I don't necessarily know about the Panthers, but again, because it's not guaranteed contracts, it doesn't matter in the end. They won't have to pay him out for the whole, like you said, 4 additional years. And meanwhile, Tristan Wirfs will, if he stays healthy and stays young and stays there, probably has a good career there, protecting whoever they bring in at quarterback.
Oh, yeah, I completely think this is a great deal for Christian McCaffrey. I'm just not sure if it's a great deal for the Panthers. And again, I did hear earlier as well, which makes a lot of sense too, is obviously McCaffrey had 116 catches last year. He had 160 the year before. So who's to say after, say, 4 years, they don't move him out to slot receiver? And, $15 million a year for a slot receiver is not bad either. So they may bring in another running back, move him out to slot receiver, and still get the extra 2 years out of him.
There you go. So there's always ways to make it work. Next up, we got to talk about the Cardinals. Kyler Murray showed a lot of potential last year. He ended up being the rookie of the year. And that says a lot for this kid, considering they only had a so-so record. But they definitely had their biggest issues on that defense. And that's why you think they're going to go with Derrick Brown out of Auburn. Now, why not address the offensive line? Why do you think that Derrick Brown is the best fit right here for the Arizona Cardinals?
Well, just like I was saying with the Panthers, I think that the Panthers should take Derrick Brown and the Arizona should take Tristan Wirfs or whoever else wills they want to take. But unfortunately, I don't think either of them are going to do the right thing. You're absolutely right. Arizona needs to take an offensive lineman to protect Kyler Murray. But unfortunately, I think that they do need help on defense. With Derrick Brown sliding here a little bit, some people think he could be a top 5 pick. I don't think he should go that high. He should probably go at number 7. But if he slides to here, I think they're going to have to take him there. They do need help on the defensive line as well as the offensive line. That being said, he was a monster in college. Obviously, playing in the SEC, he played up against some of the best competition. He was very physical. He could throw some people from side to side a little bit, as with somebody we'll be talking about in a couple of picks as well. But from the defensive side of the ball, he was always on the quarterback's face. He was getting pressures. Even Joe Burrow said he was one of the toughest guys that he faced this past year. So that's saying something. Auburn was able to keep LSU down for a pretty good part of the game. They actually had the best game plan against LSU of anybody in the entire season. They still got blown out by like 14 or 17 points, but they kept it close for the longest of any of these teams. And Derrick Brown was a big reason for that. A lot of people like Javon Kinlaw as well, but I do think that Brown is better than Kinlaw, obviously. And that being said, I think he's going to go here in Arizona. Either way, I don't think he's going to get out of the top 10. So Arizona is going to take him here unless somebody trades up with Arizona to get either him or somebody else. You never know. If Tua doesn't go to the Chargers or something like that, then the Raiders may trade up from 12 to 8 with Arizona to get him. No, and then that would be fine with Arizona, because even if Derrick Brown goes before 12, where they would pick next, then they'll be sure to get one of these offensive linemen that they should have taken in the first place.
That's smart. Like you said, hopefully they will get an offensive lineman later in the draft if they are so confident that Derrick Brown would be the best fit here. So let's see how that work out. But I definitely feel like they got to get an offensive lineman to protect Kyler if they hope to have a better record this coming season. Next up, we got to talk about the Jaguars. And again, this is another one where you think that they need to put some protection in front of Gardner Minshew, which I totally agree with you. You specifically think that Andrew Thomas, the tackle out of Georgia, is the best fit here. So tell me a little bit about Andrew Thomas and why he would be a good fit for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, he came out after his junior year, so he's only a junior. He played right tackle as a freshman. He started all 13 games as a freshman and was a freshman All-American at right tackle. Then for his sophomore and junior year, he switched to left tackle, and he was just as good in left tackle. He's the most pro-ready of all these offensive linemen that are coming in here, so I do really like him here. He played in Georgia again in the SEC. He only gave up, I believe it was 3 sacks his entire career at left tackle. He's very good in pass protection and run protection. He can play either side, as we said. So whether they play him on the left side and kick their left tackle into left guard, which they need to do because he wasn't very good last year, or if he plays right tackle and then takes over left tackle in a couple of years, they need to get somebody in here if they really want Gardner Minshew to have a chance, or if they're, if they want to. We know they like to compile picks as well. They have 9, they have 20 as well. They may be another team that looks to trade back here, possibly trading to their, in-state rival Tampa Bay, coming up from 14-9 to get Andrew Thomas themselves to protect their aging quarterback there. So that could be very much in play here. I think Jacksonville has a very good chance to back out, but if they do stay here, I do think they need an offensive lineman, and I do think that Thomas is the best one for them to take here.
And watching Gardner Minshew have to scramble for his life and Nick Foles ended up getting hurt, I really feel like offensive lineman is a very smart move on their part. So if it ends up being Andrew Thomas, having, being a girl from the SEC and having watched Georgia play this past season and seeing what Andrew Thomas can do, I think that this would be a really good fit for them to protect Gardner. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to see what he can do in the NFL. And the last one we're going to talk about, because we're just going to cover the top 10, because you and I could do this all day, is Cleveland Browns. And you think Becton, the offensive tackle, big dude out of Louisville, is going to be a good fit for the Browns and to help protect Baker. Why do you think that Mekhi Becton is the best fit for Baker and for the Browns this season?
Well, here's another one where I don't think he's the best fit. I think that the Jedrick Wills from Alabama, who is the best tackle in this draft, who still hasn't gone off the board, I have him going off the next to the Jets. I think he would actually be a better fit here. The only problem with him is that he plays right tackle. That's all he played at Alabama. They just signed Jay Conklin for 4 years to play right tackle, so they don't need him. That's why they're not going to draft him. So they can bring in Becton. He'll play left tackle. Like I said, he's 6'7", 370 pounds. He ran a 5.1 40-yard dash the combine. He's just an athletic freak. He was throwing people out of the way. He is a little obviously tall, so he doesn't really get down. So he's not the best in run block, but he's great in pass protection, which is what they really need here. Especially this will solve their offensive line issues as long as he pans out. We know they have Nick Chubb there. They have Kareem Hunt there. They can run it to the right behind Jay Conklin. With pass protection with Baker Mayfield, he'll be able to hold up there against the defensive ends that come around that right side there, helping Odell Beckham if he's still there, unless he's in Minnesota or somewhere else by that time. He'll help Jarvis Landry. He'll help all these, receivers that they have there. He'll help, obviously Kareem Hunt coming out of the backfield as another receiver. He'll be able to help there as well. So I just think that him being a monster here, 6'7", 370 pounds, he'll be able to hopefully for the next 12 years do what Joe Thomas did for the past 12 years before these last 2 years where they had nobody at left tackle.
And you hit it on the head. The fact that, Joe Thomas retired and they couldn't replace the type of production that he did. So, yeah, Becton probably is going to be the best fit there. Will he end up there? Let's hope so, because I 1,000% believe that was part of what the issue was there, was that they didn't have good protection for Baker. Not that Baker didn't just make some poor decisions and his receivers didn't come through for him, but protection plays a big key part of that. And so if Becton is available, I think that they should absolutely grab him right here. So that's our top 10 picks. Where we think everyone's going to fall. But Dominic, is there anyone in this top 10 that you feel could fall out of the top 10? And is there anyone in these lower picks that you feel might be able to sneak their way into the top 10?
Well, obviously sneaking their way in, it depends on how many quarterbacks you really like. Like if Jacksonville decides they want a quarterback, they go after Jordan Love here. Sneaking out, we don't know, especially with the corona going on and everything that is with that. We don't have all the medical issues. So there is a very good chance that Tua does not go in the top 10. He could end up falling. Again, I think if he were starting to fall, though, I think somebody like maybe the Las Vegas Raiders would come up and try and get him. So if that happens, then he may not fall in the top 10 because somebody will trade in to get him. But if they don't, there's a good chance that he falls to possibly 12 at Las Vegas. As for somebody coming into the top 10, like I said, Jordan Love, or if Jacksonville decides they want to give Minshew some weapons, one of these receivers, either, CeeDee Lamb, who I think is the best receiver, or Jerry Jeudy, may end up coming into the top 10, maybe at number 9 to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Other than that, I don't really see any of these, tackles or defensive linemen or anything. I don't see them being somebody who actually falls out of there, like a surprise if they were to fall. Like Anthony Thomas has been seen going anywhere from number 4 to number, 17. So there's a big range for these offensive tackles that I don't think anybody falling out or coming in would be a surprise at that position. The biggest surprise obviously would be if like either Joe Burrow or Chase Young or Jeff Okudah fell out of the top 10, which is never going to happen. But that's the only like super shocker that I would see of any of these players falling out of the top 10.
So then my only other question for you is, where do you see the first wide receiver or the first running back coming off the board? And who do you see that being? One at each position. Who do you see being the first running back, and who do you see being the first wide receiver coming off the board? And where? Is it somewhere in the first round, or do we have to wait till the second round before we see any people at those positions start going off the board?
Well, I'll start with running back. I personally don't think any of these running backs should go in the first round, but if any of them does, I would take Jonathan Taylor in the first round, but I don't think he's going to be the one to go. I think it would be the Dolphins that takes the running back, and I think it would be DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. Obviously Anthony Thomas's teammate. He's not a workhorse back. He never had more than 180 carries in one single year, but he's an Alvin Kamara type. He can run the ball 180 to 200 times. He can get you 70 to 80 catches as well. So he's the all-around back here. So he's a lot of people's consensus number 1 back here. So if he does go in the first round, I think he would probably be the only one, and it would be most likely to Miami at 26. There's going to be a run of wide receivers here between 12, 13, 14, 15 that go. Maybe not 14. Tampa Bay, I don't think really needs one, but I think all 3 of them are going to go at 12, 13, 15 to Las Vegas, to San Francisco, and then to Denver at 15. I think the first one that goes is probably going to be to the Las Vegas Raiders, as long as they don't get Tua at 12, unless if he falls, then they'll obviously take him. But if he doesn't fall, I think they'll probably go with Henry Ruggs at 12. He's not the best receiver. I think CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy are the best, but Henry Ruggs fills what they want the best. If he doesn't go there, he'll definitely go to San Francisco at 13. But I think it'll be either Henry Ruggs or possibly CeeDee Lamb going there. And I do think it'll be Henry Ruggs, because even though Al Davis isn't there anymore, they still love that speed guy. He was the fastest guy in the combine this year at 4.27 in the 40. So, and he's not just a speed guy. He's not like a John Ross where he can only do one thing, where players like that. He is an all-around receiver. He is an alpha receiver. He was the man in that locker room in Alabama, even though he was there with Jerry Jeudy. He was the alpha male there. All the other receivers said that he was. So he's got a lot to offer here. He's, 5'10", 195 pounds. So he's a little smaller, but he's not tiny. He's not Marquise Brown. He's not, like I said, John Ross or anything. So he'll be a great fit in the Raiders, and we'll just have to see who the quarterback is that's throwing it to him.
Cool. I think you've really hit it on the head with a lot of these picks. And it's next Thursday, you guys, that the first round will take place. I'm excited for that to happen. Like I said, this is going to be a very interesting, because it's mainly going to be a virtual draft. So this will be an interesting experience for all of us. Those of us that work in sports, is going to be very interesting. And those of you out there that are going to be viewing this, it's going to be an interesting experience. And stay home and watch it for sure. On that note, we definitely should, I know we've already touched on him a little bit, but let's go back to Christian McCaffrey for a little bit and just hit on, are they going to be leaning a little more heavily on Christian McCaffrey because we're not real sure about the quarterback situation? Do you expect them to really have him as a workhorse there this season?
I don't think they can. I mean, he had over 200 rushes last year. He had 116 receptions. The year before that, he had over 200 rushes and 106 receptions. He has over 2,500 receiving yards and rushing yards in the first 3 years in his career. He is already that workhorse there. I think they're going to count on him just as much as they have in the past, for sure. But I don't think they can really give him any more work.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. They've really run him into the ground. They may try to lean on him a little more heavily, but again, like you said, when you're doing 180 to 200 touches, how much more can you do before, you're going to end up breaking your body down and not be able to finish a whole season? But again, I'm happy for Christian that he got his money, and we'll see what happens there. I still think they're insane, but hey.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. They are insane. And I don't know about you, but I'll give you a little prop bet for the draft. I'm going to say 5,500, and that is the over-under on the square footage of Roger Goodell's basement.
Oh, I'm going to be honest with you. We've had a bet going on at my job on that. I was telling people that his basement probably is bigger than, most of our apartments at this point or whatever. And we expect him to have, someone coming and serving him drinks down there and down in his basement. So yeah, I'm 1000% with you that we're going to see something that, hell, it's bigger than the grand ballroom that they normally used to do drafts in way back in the day. So yeah, it's going to be impressive. His basement. Please believe that.
Yeah, it was funny. I was listening to Sam Monson on the PFF podcast, and he said that he's Irish, so he said his entire house in Ireland can fit in the basement in his house here, and he's pretty sure that his whole house here can fit in the basement of Goodell's house.
Oh, for sure. 1000%. I'm quite sure that 3 or 4 apartments out here in LA especially could fit inside his basement and have room left over.
Absolutely. So that's like 12 apartments in New York then.
Exactly. And lastly, we have to talk about it because it broke my heart, the news the other day. Unfortunately, I was at work at the time and it came down and it had to be reported, which is the passing of former NFL quarterback Tavares Jackson, who died tragically in a car accident. He was, I believe, 36, very young. He is most known for his time in Seattle. He won a Super Bowl ring as the backup to Russell Wilson. Good, really good dude. Had a good career. He also went on to become a coach at a HBCU. So he had a good coaching career. He had a good NFL career. He was everyone that's been online that's talked about him, from Richard Sherman to Russell Wilson to Bobby Wagner. Everyone had nothing but positive and good things to say about him as far as his presence, as far as his personality and the type of human being that he was. So my condolences to his family. But Dominic, let's tell people a little bit about tell them a little bit more about his career in the NFL. You know a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot more. I do know, obviously I recognize the name as soon as, they mention it. He went to Alabama State University, which, as you said, is a historically black college. Then he was drafted by Minnesota. He was there for a number of years before he went to Seattle. He had a 10-year career, which a lot of people would love, even as a backup. You can make, some money doing that, which he did make $14 million. So hopefully he was able to save that so his family, has some security after now his unfortunate passing. After he retired from the NFL with 45 touchdowns, he ended up going back to his alma mater, Alabama State, for a year as their quarterback coach. And then this last year, he actually was at Tennessee State University, another historically black college, as their quarterback coach. And he was actually down at home right outside of Mobile, Alabama, when he was in the car accident. He, unfortunately, he skidded off the road and hit a tree and, perished, which is devastating for any family. And it's horrible when, anybody passes away. Like I said, I just hope that his wife and their kids are doing all right now. I know it's difficult for them. So I do understand what it's like to deal with the loss of a close family member. And so I know how tough this is for them. And I just really hope that they're able to get through it and they have the support that they need to get through it.
I definitely send my condolences and prayers to Tavares Jackson's family, and also to, and specifically all the NFL teams he played for, in particular Seattle, because I know it hurt them the most. He had a really good career there. Like you said, as a backup, 10 years in the NFL is a good career, because that means you made it past your rookie contract and people really impressed with you enough to keep you around. But 10 years is really good career. It's tragic, his passing. He will be fondly remembered by many, like I said, Richard Sherman and Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner and Cam Chancellor and so many other players spoke nothing but good words about him. So my condolences and prayers to his family, and everybody, hug a loved one. Air hugs right now. The loved ones you have close to you, hug them, keep them close, pray for all of them. And the ones that are distant, send them air hugs, hit them on, FaceTime and talk to them, and just remember to love and hug everybody right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my co-host Tyler on the Fancy Hot Read pod says at the end of every show, don't forget, tell somebody you love them.
Absolutely. And do that, especially right now with the state of the world. Do it even more. Do it every chance you get to tell someone you love them today. Well, you guys, that's all the time that we have. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for next week. I am 1000% ready for the draft and to see how this all shakes out. I'm very excited for this. I know that Dominic is as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see it.
So that's all the time, you guys. I want to thank everybody again for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at TheNFLGirl320. Dominic, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at EnvisionFF.
You can read more of my thought on SheKnowsProFootball.com. Dominic, where can they read your work?
You can read my work at fantasyhotread.com as well as rotoballer.com, and when there's eventually a season, at rasball.com.
Thank you guys again for listening. See you back here next time.